Welcome in, everybody. Today, we are talking about gender. I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to sort of the male gender, because I think that the male gender has a lot of sort of gender healing to do. And so Trash asked a question pretty specifically about the male gender. And I really wanted to address it because I think that it's an important topic that doesn't get talked about a lot. So, this was the question. There is a Patreon article that you can check out that talks about all of this. If you type in !gender, you can see it. And the question is, "Oh dear and thoughtful people of the super secret place, I seek thy wisdom. Today I was doing some handy type jobs around the house, lifting heavy appliances and fixing pipes, etc. This was sweaty and dirty work. Calm down, Tech. However, during it and afterwards, I felt all proud and strong that I had done a thing. It's quite rare for me to feel that way outside of really good sex. So far, so good, right? Not quite. When I went to tell a friend about what I had done, I used the words manly and boy thing to describe the tasks I had done, and the feeling of smugness in doing them. These words immediately felt wrong, as I don't consciously think of these things being gendered, especially as my mom was the handy person at home. So my first question is to the cis men, because they always come first, right, ladies? Do any of you lads feel a similar conflict about your masculine traits? And the more important question to everybody, is there better language to talk about macho or manly things that doesn't stem from socialized gender roles? So, the first thing that I want to talk about with this is sort of a, like to zoom out and talk about sort of a more generalized philosophy. I have firmly come to believe that everything in life that is good rides a fine line. I think that the closer you get to anything good, the more you find that it rides a fine line, right? Very rarely do you find things that are good that rest on extremes. It's always grays. It's always more toward the middle than the ends of the spectrum. So, that being said, I'm going to speak for me personally first about this particular topic. And what I'm going to say is that I still really value gender in some ways. Not that I think that there's anything wrong with like non-binary or anything like that. I think people should be able to identify however they want to identify. But for me personally, I still have some deep connections with gender, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is that I personally have a very, very visceral, deep attraction to female energy in a female container. And what I mean by female presenting container, and what I mean by female presenting container is, to me, it really doesn't matter if you are cis or if you are trans or whatever. There are probably terms that I'm not even educated to know enough about to be able to lay out all of the different categories. But basically, if someone is female presenting and they have that sort of powerful female energy, I have a very deep attraction to that, and therefore I still hold some value in gender. The other reason that I hold some value in gender is because I think that labeling rides a fine line, right? I think that labeling definitely does do a lot of harm. We have done a lot of harm in our society through labeling, but I also think that it has helped us advance as a society incredibly. If we didn't have labeling, we wouldn't have a lot of the modern day medicine and being allowing people to live longer, because we wouldn't understand as much about the body, because we wouldn't have labeled it and sort of come to a consensus of understanding about what was going on, right? And so I think that the same can be said of gender, and specifically with men. I think that there are, like I said, I think that men have a lot of work to do on their gender, And I think that in labeling certain things, it can be helpful to help men grow within their gender. There are a couple of things that they can label. One thing that they can label, and that we already do, very much so, is they can label toxic traits, right? We can label toxic masculinity, traits that men exhibit that are harmful to everyone, but especially women. And I think that is helpful in terms of like what to avoid. But I also think that it's very important to label things that are sort of like socialized norms for men that are good things, right? Like positive masculine traits. And these things that Trash was talking about in his question about like like handiwork and like getting like good and sweaty and like lifting heavy things are sort of like socialized, like normalized socialized masculine duties. Not to say that women can't perform them, but just that they are traits that are often thought of as sort of male roles, and that I believe contribute positive value to whatever relationship you're in, whether it is a relationship with yourself or whether it is a relationship with your significant other. And I think that that's really what relationships are all about. I think that if you want to have a successful relationship, it's important to look at what value you're contributing to the relationship and what value your partner is contributing to the relationship. And ultimately, there should be a balance of that value. And so I think that in celebrating yourself as a man and as a woman, or whatever gender you identify as, celebrating men for contributing these positive things, I think that it helps within men in healing their gender roles. Because I think that one thing that men are really struggling with right now is that they have no idea where the heck they fit in. They have no idea, because what happened was women entered into the workforce, and that was like what men were doing. And so then men came back home from the war, and were like, okay, women, go back home. And women were like, no. And so then men were like, well, what do I guess I'll just keep working, and that'll be it. And women were like, no, because now we're working and taking care of the house. So like you need to step it up, men. And men, for the most part, just haven't. Like like a huge majority of men still just work and don't do anything else, while women are doing like everything. And so I think that the more that we can sort of celebrate the positive value that men are providing to relationships, the faster men are going to be able to recognize what value they can bring to a relationship, and the faster their gender is going to heal. Because I really do think that there is a lot of gender trauma for men, and that this will help. And it's not women's responsibility to do this by any means, because women have enough responsibility. It shouldn't be their job to fix men, you know? But I do think that as men, it is our job to actively work on healing our gender. And I think that this is a really important, valuable way to do it. Taking pride in your gender, and in actual positive things that your gender is providing is super important. And so in response to Trash's like direct question, is there better language to talk about macho or manly things that doesn't stem from socialized gender roles? I actually don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that. I think that it's a good thing to do that. I think that if you feel really like manly and godly after you've contributed some positive value to a relationship, you should celebrate that. You should talk about how manly and masculine you feel. Like when you actually make a woman orgasm in bed from having sex, That is something that should make you feel like the best heckin' man in the world, right? Those are things to actually take pride in. We need to. I think that the danger in celebrating masculine traits is when we're celebrating toxic masculine traits, not when we're celebrating positive masculine traits. Because what I hear a lot of women talk about is that there's nothing that they find more attractive than a good man. I think that women really love the masculine traits, masculine men, when they are exhibiting positive masculine traits. And I think that those things should be celebrated and talked about more. And men should take pride in their gender. I think that's my talk. I hope you all liked it. Clap it up if you did. I think that's my talk. Thank you so much. If you're watching this over on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube. Trying to get the channel monetized and all the things. I really appreciate everybody listening and being here. Thank you. Hope you all liked it.